DTM Devlal Sahadevan is a versatile and a talented person who has tremendous achievements. He joined Toastmasters in the year 2006 and has been a very active member and has performed in various positions. He is the founder of Humorous Advanced Toastmasters in the year 2011. He has also served as a district leadership chair, district credential chair, hospitality chair for DTAC 2016, education chair for DTAC 2019, and Division H director in 2019-20. He has also served in Division H as Pathways Ambassador. He bagged the Division H championship for humorous speech in the year 2008. He is a graduate in English language and literature and in hospitality management and has done his MBA in human resources. He is a certified trainer and worked for an offshore services company as a training and quality manager. As a hospitality management consultant, he has helped set up 3 hospitality management institutes, including one in United Arab Emirates. He is also very skilled in arts as well. He has a fabulous Facebook page called Toons by Dave D to display his various cartoons and also is a designer and a blogger. He is a member of Abu Dhabi Theatre Group and a movie buff, a drummer and a mixed martial arts enthusiast.
Welcome to the 18th episode of Positive Media Channel. Mark Twain once said, "Humor is mankind's greatest blessing." Humor can make any conversation so much better. And through humor, you can soften some of the worst blows that life delivers. And once you find both, no matter how painful your situation might be, you can and will survive it. Today, to make our day even better, to make our conversations even better, we are privileged to have DTM Devlal Sahadevan, a humorist, trained speaker, and artist by passion. Hi, sir. Welcome to Positive Media. First of all, thank you so much for coming and attending this session. We are really grateful to have you here. How are you feeling today?
I'm fine, a little bit nervous, especially because of all the amazing speakers you have put forward. It makes actually even seasoned Toastmasters a little bit nervous. But also okay.
So before we dive into all those questions and to the core of our session, most of us know you as DTM Devlal Sahadevan, a Toastmaster, a public speaker, but we are really keen to know more about you. So will you please give us a brief intro about who you truly are so we can get to know you a little bit better?
That's perhaps the toughest question that a lot of people, including me, would be able to answer, because how can you talk about yourself? Right? The first project is perhaps about the icebreaker. We are supposed to talk about ourselves, but I believe a fair way of describing oneself should come from the others. And I believe you have already listed out quite a few things about me. And I don't really have much to add to that, except that I'm still learning. If anybody finds a conversation with me interesting, that means the learning is still happening and it should continue. So I would rather talk more about the rest of the questions that I'm looking forward to, okay, and keep my introduction to the minimum. Thank you.
So all of us have moments we cherish and moments we treasure in our life. So how long you've been here in UAE, and what is the moments you cherish the most here in your life in Abu Dhabi?
I came to Abu Dhabi in 2006.
Oh.
And it's pretty difficult to pick one moment that I cherished. It's pretty difficult because there have been so many. But I think, in my opinion, my most cherished moments are whenever you meet people who are like-minded, and that builds onto your huge friends and relationships. And any time you spend with such people, they're all cherished moments.
Okay, thank you. So being a humorist is a part of who you are. It's a part of your identity. So, was there any particular incident when you were given the title of a humorous person, like the very start, or some incident that triggered you to this field?
That's again a very tough question. I believe you've definitely chosen some tough questions for me. But thinking back, I would say this much, I don't know, I don't even know if I deserve to be labeled as a humorist. That I think DTM Vinod kind of very generously conferred upon me. What I would like to remind everybody at this moment is, if you ask a person about me, and depending upon who you ask, each one of them would probably say a little bit something different about me, right? I don't really take myself very seriously. Maybe that's one thing which probably has got me this label.
Personally speaking, whenever I used to make up a joke in my head, I was too scared to say it out loud. I mean, there have been many awkward situations in my life where I had to explain the joke to them so that they laugh. So this is a problem we encounter many a time, where we're not confident enough to crack a good joke, even though we have one. So do you have any tips to overcome this and create a good humorous speech?
Okay, now there are two sides to it. First is, not 100% of our audience would always be with you and crack a joke. Okay, maybe it's because the humor didn't work on that particular day, and sometimes maybe we had limitations in understanding the audience and then cracking a joke which is appropriate for the audience. But it also could be because of another reason. Sometimes people are not very expressive when it comes to reacting to humor. You would find some people who would just have this poker face. They would sit in front of, they would be in the first front row. They would probably be listening to the most funniest person in the world, and still they would be deadpan. It does not mean that they're stupid or they don't understand what's happening. It's just that they're not very expressive in reacting to it. And if you have like a bunch of them in the audience, we would assume that our humor isn't working. Now that's one thing. The second part is, humor doesn't work all the time with everybody, right? So if you are going to crack a joke, understand your audience, and do a little bit of research and find what sort of jokes are they a bunch of doctors that pick up something from their own profession. So that sort of preparation will always help you with humor. And even the funniest would sometimes, one fine day, it may not work for you. That just shouldn't stop you from it. Just keep at it. They will laugh eventually.
Yes. So we have to understand the audience, and it should be relatable for them so that they find it funny too. Okay. So we know that jokes are funny. I mean, that's obviously why we laugh. But what is the science behind jokes? How does it help us to, cope up with mental illnesses like depression, anxiety?
Okay. I did a little bit of research. To be honest, I never really thought much about the science of humor or the science behind humor. It's like you eat when you're hungry and you drink when you're thirsty, right? So humor is like something that happens naturally to us. Why even bother to dissect and do a postmortem and get behind the science behind it? To me, that's not really necessary. But of course, common sense plays and logic plays a huge part when it comes to making humor effective. But there are some theories, like for example, the benign violation theory. When I read about it, there are probably around 20 theories of behind humor, or types of humor. And one that's what benign violation says is that where a social or a physical norm had been violated, but that violation is not very upsetting, we laugh.
So last month, the 10th graders had their board results. It was like a very important. So thankfully, almost everyone I know passed with flying colors. But before the exam, whenever I talked with them, I could sense a feeling of anxiety, gloominess, and a lot of stress. So according to you, how important is humor in our school life and our entire life in general?
Okay. Who are the biggest consumers of cartoon movies? Who do you think?
Kids.
Yes. So I believe, we all are ingrained, it's in our DNA to laugh or enjoy, etc. Anxiety and stress can happen to all of us. We know that. Whether it's a high school grader or a person who's retired and sitting at home and probably looking at the wall and wondering what to do next. We all go through that. Okay. You just can't avoid it. But how do we cope with that? By doing something that is interesting to us. Now, if you are fond of singing, find time to do that. If you would like to take, no particular interest, a hobby, or a talent, you like to go for a walk with your dog or watch a sunset, have an ice cream, go ahead and do that. But there will be something that makes us tick, something that helps us to relax our minds. What could happen over a period of time is that as responsibilities increase or as the demand, expectations, increase in terms of delivering something, performing something, sometimes we forget and we stop doing those little things that keep us human, keep us relaxed, etc. So, if at all I have to give you one suggestion, that would be keep doing those little things that make us who we are.
So the little things which we usually ignore when we have more responsibilities is what is most important, like in our life, to enjoy our life.
Maybe you have a music class. The moment you hit the high school or plus two, you stop attending those classes. There's no reason why you shouldn't.
Yes,
Isn't it?
So again, coming back to schools, being in school can be really stressful. I mean, we have to balance studies at one hand, extracurriculars at one hand. And for a fact, I know that you were a division director last time. So you bagged a really good opportunity along with being a wonderful speaker, a good humorist, a cartoonist. So how did you balance all of this together and was able to secure a good position in each field?
To be honest, I was never a good planner, and I don't think, that perhaps is still an area where I need improvement. I'm not a huge planner. And I'm also highly absent-minded. So when I say all this in the beginning, you probably would wonder, oh, maybe we've called the wrong person to talk about all this. What I do is I keep a checklist. I'm the kind of person, if I need to travel, I need to write it down in a checklist that I need to take my toothbrush, otherwise I'll forget it. So you see, checklist has been I have a checklist right on the screen of my laptop, so I keep looking at it. That's one thing. Second thing is when it comes to balancing things, I think it's all about prioritizing. Toastmastering is not a full-time job, right? We cannot devote our entire life to it. So you just have to keep aside some time for it, but not too much time for it. And as long as you should be able to prioritize, I think things should work out pretty well for us.
So organizing and prioritizing is one of the main important things you do to balance.
I wouldn't say organizing, I would say checklisting. Let's put it simply.
Checklist to the rescue. So in our speeches where we discuss very serious topics, how can we make sure that we inculcate humor in it without losing the seriousness or the essence of the major message we want to convey?
Great. That's a very good question. I think humor is all around us. If you really closely observe, and I think, that's also one type of humor which works really well with everybody, observational humor. You're probably, in the bathroom looking at your reflection and brushing your teeth. If you really observe, there's probably a humorous story waiting to be told during that time. So just like that, no matter how drab or dreary the topic may seem in the beginning, if you really look close, there would always be opportunities to inject humor because it's already there. It's just that we need to be observant and understand it. Okay, what opportunities are there lying hidden for us to exploit them?
Right. So humor is everywhere and it is something we need to observe. So humor is something which we cannot learn, right?
No. I would never say that. I think humor is a learned skill. Now, sometimes we say that some people are born with an innate sense of humor, etc. But please remember this. Let's say someone who is in the 30s, that person is the sum total of the books you have read, the friends you had, the place where you grew up, the movies you watched, your parents, your friends, your village, your city. You're a sum total of all that, isn't it? And all that had a little bit to do with who you are today, including your sense of humor and, of course, the way you appreciate it. So most of us do not undertake a course to get better at humor. It's just something that we learn as we grow up. So that time is still there. If you want to get better at it, all you have to do is, we cannot, undo and relearn our lives another time, but you can definitely put in some effort and pick it up.
Okay. So a good sense of humor comes from our past experiences and our memories as well. That's
That and a mindset.
okay.
And I would always say, let's not take ourselves too seriously. Okay, take our job seriously, take our responsibility seriously, but do not take ourselves so seriously. Crack a joke, but then if you make yourself the butt of your own jokes, you must have heard about self-deprecating jokes, right?
Yes, yes.
That works most of the time.
Yes. And just now we talked about serious topics, but to help us understand this better on how to add humor to our speeches, shall we play a little game? Are you ready?
Okay, all right.
So here with me, that's a set of topic titles, only three, okay? And
Okay.
it's addressed in a very serious way, like in a common way. But you, being a humor expert, need to transform this or address these topics in a humorous way. Okay, it's very basic, no rules. Just how much average time you will need for
Uh, for exactly what exactly do you want me to do?
it's like I'll give you a particular topic title and it'll be
Okay.
addressed in a very serious way. You just need to transform it into a humorous way or crack a joke about it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, obviously, I cannot make you wait, right? So I'm going to take the risk of maybe making a fool out of myself in front of you. But let's just go ahead. Give me the topic. Yeah.
Okay. First topic is a really simple one. It's something we see every day, almost everywhere. It is plastic pollution.
You made it talk about plastic pollution, and make it funny, right?
Yes, sir.
Goodness gracious, what have I got myself into? Hmm. What's wrong with plastic pollution in the first place? People talk about plastic pollution as if it is a big deal. Have you ever tried to drink your favorite fizzy drink without a straw and ended up having it in your mouth, coming out through your ears? It's not a great experience. Okay. Now, the moment you are going to go with this notion that plastic pollution is a big deal, you're going to take out that beautiful experience of enjoying a drink through a plastic straw and forget all your worries, at least for a few seconds. Now, am I going to trade my moment of happiness with environmental concern? Guess what? I'm selfish. I'm here to save Coca-Cola. Plastic pollution comes second. All right. Now, that's not my best. That probably was pretty lame. But sometimes humor works when you go against the grain. Okay. Like somebody would probably ask me to say something against smoking. And ideally, I'm supposed to do that, especially if I'm talking in front of a bunch of kids. But if it's in front of Toastmasters, I probably would go against the grain and turn the topic on its head and do the exact opposite. It didn't work now, but it's an option.
There's been just one title, and I know why he's such a good humor speaker. Next is too much digitalization harmful for health.
Too much digitalization is harmful for health. There is nothing called too much digitalization, first of all. I think I have a more eventful, colorful life, for example, on Facebook. My conversations get a lot of audience on WhatsApp. I have been educating one mind at a time through Instagram. I'm God's gift to digitalization. And you tell me something a little too much of something beautiful and so nice and so world changing is too much? I think it comes from a minimal understanding of this beautiful digitalized world. I'm just waiting for my day to get into the matrix and be one with it. I'm sick of this physical world. It's time to go digital.
That was awesome, really awesome. I'm not lying, it was really good.
All right, I'll take your word for it. My club members would have clapped me off the stage if I had did this at my club.
Yes, sir. So we are the next generation, talking about us, the kids. So even though we are only 20% of the today's world, we are 80% of the future. So what major change would you like to see in us, the young generation?
I think the younger generation shouldn't change. That's what I would say. This 20% is going to become 80%, isn't it? And if this 20% decide to become like the adults, serious and stressed out and worried and grumpy and all that, man, I just can't even think about a world like that tomorrow. So I believe the younger generation should keep their innocence, keep the cheerfulness, keep the creativity, the confidence, and of course, the risk-taking attitude of yours. And if you just stay as yourself, that's perhaps the best thing that can happen for a future world.
All right. Thank you so much. So that's the end of the questions. You can relax now. Once again, thank you so much for being here with us. I'm sure we all learned something new, a takeaway message. And thank you so much. And that's all for today. This is Gavalier Krishnendu signing off.
Thank you, Gavalier Krishnendu. You've been very kind. Thank you, everyone.